Now I've got my piece of clay cut to size. I'm going to roll tubes around it and begin the process of making the toothbrush holder. As I roll the first roll around it, making sure the plastic's not under the seam. And then I find out where the seam's going to be, and I take some score it or with my scoring tool, and then I put some slip on it. Slip is a liquid clay that's got some vinegar in it. It's like the glue. The glues the clay pieces together. I've got a container of it here. And I want to make sure I have a generous amount of clay on there. And of course, I want to make sure that plastic is not in the seam, because I'll have to be able to take that out after it dries enough to firm up, to hold its shape, which won't be too long. It doesn't take long for it to dry enough to do that. And I'm pressing it in, making sure that the seam's really, really pressed in. I have this pony roller that I roll on. It's actually a roller left over from wallpaper days, from rolling the seams. Now this is the bottom. I put a liquid water on it, which is called magic water. It's got some chemicals in it, which another form of really gluing it in, making sure it's stuck in glue. And I'm putting 2 rolls in there. So this is the first roll. And I'm 2 more rolls. And of course, again, I have to make sure it's really slipped and scored on there. Get my glue in there, my clay glue or clay slip. Get a generous amount on there. It's a generous amount. It really makes it, sticks better. Don't want it to come apart. And of course, I press it in with my finger, just make sure it's really pressed in there quite well. And I'll put the second tube on there. The first tube's larger enough to hold a tube of toothpaste, and these 2 are big enough to hold toothbrushes. And you can even put a battery-operated electric toothbrush in there, as I store mine in there. So I'm slipping a score, and I have excess clay left over, which I will be cutting off. So I'll get the slip on there, lots of it again. Make sure it's really, and this is the end, the outside seam, so I'm going to make sure it's really firmed in there. And take my pin tool, and I'll cut off that excess amount of clay. And I'm going to move the camera around so you can see the edge of it. You can see how it's like that. What I'm doing again, same as like the bottom, I take it and I pull that clay over. So it's got a nice bond. It also smooths out the edge, so it's not a square edge. Now I need to cut off that excess clay from the bottom that I've got there. I'll just take my pin tool and cut around the edge. I don't cut right close to it. I leave a little bit of an outside, because I want to take some excess clay and actually pull it up onto the bottom. I find just making sure that it's going to stay on and not come off. So I go around there with my finger and I just pull it up. At the same time, I'm trying to smooth it out a bit. And I'm going to smooth out the seam as I go along as well too. Now what this is doing, I got black and white clay, so I'm kind of smudging the clay. So I'll go over it after with a sponge and clean it up and make it nice and bright and crisp. So this will be a white and black toothbrush holder when it's finished. And I'll take I've got a rubber rib, a soft rubber rib, and I'll just roll it around there and get some of the excess off to help it smooth it out better. Then after I've got this rubber rib, go around with the rubber rib and I'll touch up the edge of where this excess clay is on the seam, clean that up a bit. I'll go over it with a metal rib, and then of course at the end I'll touch it up with a sponge and tidy it up and clean it all up, because I find it looks better for nice crisp edges. Of course, now I've got this little bit on the top from the being cut at an angle, so I'll just take my pin tool and just cut a line across there and get that off and make that smooth. The first ones I made, I did just rolled it back and made a little curly too. Now this is the end result, just while it needs to dry and then put in the kiln.